Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. Permit us to begin by congratulating all those who were newly decorated as National Honor Awardees on Monday, November 14. We hope that those who are coming behind will also be duly recognized for their services to this great country. Today on Tax Matters, it will be feedback time once again. And you know what feedback is meant to achieve: to give the taxpayer his voice, to let you have your say. The Fulcrum will be the Stakeholders Forum held in Kano State on Friday, October 21 for taxation stakeholders in the northwest region of the country. Several issues cropped up at that forum, including full implementation of self-assessment, the role of consultants in the scheme of things, and the need to register them at a central location as go-betweens between taxpayers and revenue authorities. The requirements for registering for taxpayer identification number and the acquisition of tax clearance certificate. And talking about taxpayer identification number, you recall that last episode we told you the story of the formal launching of the taxpayer identification number scheme for importers. The ceremony was jointly anchored by the Federal Revenue Service and the Nigeria Customs Service in Lagos, in Ikeja, Lagos. And you know that for some years now, the Federal Revenue Service has been registering taxpayers for taxpayer identification number, corporate bodies, limited liability companies that pay companies income tax, and personal income taxpayers, those who pay through the Federal Revenue Service, who include officials of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, officers and men of the armed forces and the police, non-resident individuals, and all residents of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Of course, the TIN scheme is becoming bigger with the imminent roll-off of the unique taxpayer identification number scheme, UTIN, an initiative of the Joint Tax Board under which all tax-paying adults will be registered and be given a taxpayer identification number. All the state boards of internal revenue and the Federal Revenue Service are involved in this under the aegis of the Joint Tax Board. And just in case you need to be reminded about the requirements for registering for taxpayer identification number scheme, here you are.
To register for taxpayer identification number thing, a limited liability company needs the following: the CAC company registration number, otherwise known as RC number, name of company, registered address, business address, date of incorporation, line of business, GSM number of principal officer, and email address, which is optional. For individual or enterprises, the following are required: name of the employee, address of employing organization, ministry or company, form of identification, which can be any one of the following: staff ID, international passport, national ID, and national driver's license. Date of employment or date on ID, line of business, GSM number, and email address.
There you are. Go out there and do the needful. Register today for taxpayer identification number. There is an integrated tax office or a large tax office of the FRS close to you. Welcome back. Now to feedback as it played out in Kano State on Friday, October 21, 2011. This is the second installment. Remember, the first installment came to you about 2 weeks ago. This first speaker represents the Corporate Affairs Commission Office in Kano.
I have received a number of complaints from taxpayers to the effect that their certificate of registration number is not available to Inland Revenue Services. Therefore, their TIN number is not the same with what Inland Revenue is having. And from my observation, most of those companies or other enterprises that are having that RC number are actually business names. In other words, there is a need for, let me say, education or enlightenment for those officers handling or managing that portal to distinguish between a company limited liability and a business enterprises, a business name. That is one. Number two, I used to receive the complaint from the taxpayers. And whenever I ask them to go and get something written from Inland Revenue, confirming that, they will tell me that Inland Revenue is not obliging. They say it's not their responsibility. So what I normally do is to ask the taxpayers to write to me that they have gone to Inland Revenue and they've been told that their RC number is not, or another company is having that registration. And I will check in my record and confirm and write back to the Inland Revenue Services, telling them that this is the correct company having the correct RC number. And also on the final note, the Inland Revenue Service should equally check out how those records are updated. I understand most of the companies that are having this problem are newly incorporated companies, maybe between February to September this year.
I want to correct that impression. It's not within this year. Even last year, even when I was in another station, we have cases like that. The RC, you see it, in the web portal, it's a different name. We have differences. I remember there was a case in Ottawa which I had to contact the TC there at that time when I was in East. It was a registrar that eventually confirmed. Well, it's a common phenomenon. You see, this is the name. Another company is bearing the same name. So they will be sure we have to refer the case to the registrar of companies to confirm which one is the genuine name. It's a common something. So
the understanding that we should work better.
Yes, sir. That is the understanding. Yes. I admit that we have instances where we have duplication of RC number. We need to confirm. That is one. But there are instances where it's not a duplication. We have business name registration, which can have the same number with a company limited liability. And from the name, you can clearly see it's a business enterprise. If you see a name not having the word limited or PLC, that means it's not a limited liability company, it's a business enterprises.
The question that begs for an answer is where there should be a clash at all between the RC number of an enterprise and a limited liability company. One of these days, we'll ask them at the Corporate Affairs Commission what is amiss. But there's cheering news from the Federal Revenue Service.
We have been collaborating with CAC in order to make life easier for the taxpayers. Currently, we exchange information through electronic documents. That's a PDF document. We have all the companies that have been registered. We get a monthly PDF document of all the registration numbers. But going forward, there's a project that has reached an advanced stage. And there's an interconnectivity between CAC and FRS databases, such that when a new company is registered, the details of such company will be sent to our database, and there's a program that will generate a TIN number for that new company and then send back to CAC, such that the certificate of incorporation will also contain TIN number. So between now and December, we have a project plan to complete that process so that this kind of case will not be arising again. But for now, the best way to handle it, if that case had been referred to the headquarters, that's the taxpayer services, they would have been able to resolve that. I and the head of taxpayer services had to take over a particular case in Ilorin because they said for a very long time they asked them to go to CAC. CAC said they should come back to us. So we need to reduce the burden of compliance on taxpayers by taking up their cases. And that is why we now have the taxpayer services department. These are the kind of cases they are supposed to handle because they've been trained specially in customer relationship. So they understand the implication of sending you to go and solve your own problem. We are here to solve your problem. So thank you.
One other important matter that came up was the need for the State Boards of Internal Revenue and the Federal Revenue Service to work closely together.
I would like to once again commend the management of the FRS for doing this. I want to make some suggestions to the Federal Revenue based on our experiences in the states, at the subnational level. Whenever we go out to conduct tax audit, and we go to the taxpayer regarding withholding tax particularly, most of these taxpayers, they will tell you that once they know that you are coming from the state internal revenue, they will tell you that they pay they make all the tax deductions in respect of limited liability companies. So I believe even if the federal revenue goes there, they will tell them they are paying to individual contractors. So what we need to do, we need to create a kind of interface, a kind of joint relationship between the state internal revenue and the federal revenue service. And any time we are going for tax audit, we need to work together, we need to share information, we need to share notes, so that this kind of issue will be resolved. So that all these taxpayers that normally try to evade taxes, it will be reduced to the barest minimum. So I'd like to suggest that we shall have a kind of working relationship together. Whenever we're going for tax audit, let's go together, let's partner, let's work together, so that we get information on all these taxpayers. The secondly, there are other issues that arises from the tax audit that we conducted, and we're still conducting in Sokoto State. It has to do with some taxpayers paying taxes that are supposed to go to the states, paying to the federal revenue. And you find that in most cases, the federal revenue will not reject it. They are supposed to, they know the relevant law, they know the relevant tax laws. So when a taxpayer is making wrong payment to you, you should be able to tell him, this is not for me, it's for the states. So that the taxpayer will not be taxed twice. Because the states will not just fold our arms and say that, okay, because you are paid to the federal revenue, and then we'll just take it like that, we will not tax you, we will still tax you. So that should be a kind of working relationship, so that we avoid these kind of problems.
In response, the executive chairman of the FRS had this to say.
I'd like to assure the Commissioner of Finance, Sokoto State, that we spent some time yesterday talking about this need for collaboration between the federal and the state revenue services. It's extremely important, and that there's a need for joint audit, because the comment you've made also works the other way around. You also find taxes due to FRS being paid to the states and also not being rejected. So we need to work together. We also have situations where, for transactions that are VATable, VAT is not charged. And if we were working together, the respective revenue authorities will get their due taxes. Now, more importantly is that we should also share a similar database, and that is why I'm also using this opportunity to appeal to those state governments who haven't contributed to the Unique Taxpayer Identification Number project to please know that this project is really to strengthen collaboration between the states and the federal, so that we have one database. Right now, the TIN we're talking about is a TIN issued by FRS. With the Unique Taxpayer Identification Number, we're all going to migrate to one TIN. We're all going to view one database. And so if, for example, an individual is paying taxes to the state, but inadvertently pays it to the FRS, it will show on the database, and it will be very easy for us to actually know and track who has double paid and who hasn't paid. It also helps us know, when somebody was talking about widening the taxpayer database, truly the tax database is very limited. And that's also because we are also not sharing, because the tax database for the state is not being shared with the federal. The tax for the federal is not being shared with the state. And so really at the end of the day, we're talking about one taxpayer, even though we're different revenue authorities. So the UTIN project is really designed to strengthen this collaboration. Even as we implement the UTIN project, this is another appeal to the regional coordinators, tax controllers of the Federal Inland Revenue Service who are here today. We need to collaborate with the State's Board of Internal Revenue. We need to collaborate with the State's Ministries of Finance. Both ways, remit taxes to the states that are not ours, collect taxes from the states that are for the federal, grow together revenue due to respective revenue authorities so that we can strengthen the tax system.
Still on working together?
We work together, honestly. In terms of spread, we are much more spreaded. Like in Katsina State, we have 25 revenue offices across the state out of the 34 number of local governments that we have. And we have full-fledged revenue offices. And I believe the Federal Inland Revenue Service, if they want to share with us and they want to collaborate more with us, they can partner with us more. Even though they are doing it, we have desk officers in the Ministry of Finance and all other collecting avenues where our officers are there and their officers are there. Whatever comes in, we separate it there. This is due for the federal, this is due for the state. So we know our bounds. We don't encroach into each other's. The only area where we have problem is on the outside collections. And that is, to me, I just know that if any other organization collects what is not due to it, that it is just being done deliberately.
Alhaji Borodo, a former chieftain of Nasima, had these words of commendation for the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Yesterday afternoon, the tax people from Kano came to my office with the 2010 assessment. And I know that there is a big tax drive in Kano going on. So when they left, I was wondering whether I should come here today or not. But this is unique. Truly speaking, it is unique. I've been in business here for almost 30 years, paying my taxes. And I have my colleagues here from the manufacturing sector who have had companies that are 50, 60 years old, and they have been paying their taxes. The Kandokis here, for example, the flour mills, very respectable companies who add value to this community. And they deserve honor and fair treatment. Our greatest problem here is the tax net is very small. You have to expand it. Everybody should pay tax. Everybody. Because that is really the signature of the agreement between the people and their governments. It must be there, and you must expand that net. So I know in the last 5-6 years, a lot of transformation is going in FIRS. I want you to continue. You have our support. We feel that we have to pay tax. Yes, it is an obligation as citizens of this country. And we'll continue to do that. But you also have to be very realistic and be close, open. As I said, most of us have not entered that office in 5, 6, 7 years. We connect through intermediaries because it seems to be the safest way. I have had a situation where auditors came from Lagos, spent 5 days in my office auditing VAT on ice. I was making ice block. 5 days. They went back and sent me a bill of 2.7 million to pay for ice. My neighbor who was making ice cream was not checked. And there was no VAT on ice cream. Yes. So, but if there is this rapport, this communication, we will feel happy and comfortable to pay our tax. Madam Chairman, you have done well. Please continue. and don't give up. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Please sit down. What can I do for you, sir?
I'm here to pay my company tax.
Do you have your TIN?
What is TIN?
TIN means taxpayer identification number.
I don't have. How much will it cost me to have it?
It's free. Every taxpayer must have a unique taxpayer identification number. TIN.
Please let me have my own.
Fill this form, please.
Thank you.
This is your TIN. Go to the bank and make payment for your tax.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Before you pay any of the taxes collectible by Federal Inland Revenue Service, obtain and complete a taxpayer registration form, and your taxpayer identification number 10 will be generated electronically if you don't have one already. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
That was feedback, and it was meant to educate and enlighten taxpayers. And talking about education and enlightenment, taxation as a body of knowledge has come into its own all over the world. Taxation is now taught and studied up to the tertiary level all over the world. On Monday, November 14, 2011, the CITN took another giant step in its bid to improve the knowledge of prospective tax practitioners. 2 new sets of syllabus were presented to the public at a press conference held at the commencement of a 3-day special training program for newly admitted members of the CITN who would be inducted on Thursday, November 17, 2011. Correspondent Christina Pius covered the event.
The new syllabus were presented to the public at the press conference held at the National Theatre in Igomu, Lagos. Deputy Vice President of the Institute, Mrs. Teju Shomori, stood in for the president at the event.
It is important to note that the new syllabus changes the focus of our examinations, which hitherto align more to direct taxation, to fully encompass and integrate the indirect taxation. Fundamentally, a lot of modifications, including additions where necessary, have been made to the reviewed syllabus, both in its content and scope. A transition period of 2 decades have been granted to enable students presently writing the Institute's examination to sit for subjects in the old syllabus. By October 2012, the old syllabus will cease to be in operation. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you here the 2 syllabi. The first one is Taxation Technician Scheme, and while the second one is Professional Examination Syllabus.
Under the old syllabus for the professional exam, there were 3 stages: Foundation, Professional 1, and Professional 2. Whereas, under the new syllabus, there are 4 stages: Foundation, Professional 1, Professional 2, and Professional 3. Each has 4 papers. For Taxation Technician Scheme, there are now 3 stages as against 2 in the current syllabus. Each also has 4 papers. The new syllabi will take effect from November 2012. Dr. Mrs. Shomori also seized the opportunity to announce the relocation of the CITN office in Lagos.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are all aware of the incident that happened to the building which used to accommodate our secretariat. Following the unfortunate incident of the collapse of that building on Wednesday, October 26, 2011, I'm pleased to inform you that it was the building that went down, not the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Our institute is still standing. Our institute is solid as a rock. To reaffirm that all our programs since the unfortunate incident were being executed as planned. Let me also quickly assure all members and well-wishers that all our remaining events for the year, they will hold as scheduled. I'm pleased to therefore inform you that we have not got a new secretariat, and it is now at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Plot 10, Nuruddin Olowopopo Crescent, Central Business District, Alausa, Ikeja.
That brings us to the end of today's episode of Tax Matters. Please join us next week on this same station. In the meantime, we implore you to be good citizens of Nigeria by paying your taxes as and when due. It is our joint responsibility. Thank you for watching.